Okay, so today, possibly my favorite verse in the Bible. There's a few that contend for that for sure, but one of my go-tos, no question, Ephesians 2:10. And you guys are going to love this today, and I'm actually going to give you a little assignment when it's all said and done. But here is Ephesians 10 from the Passion Translation. We have become his poetry. Have you ever thought of yourself as poetry? Probably not very much, right? Most of the time we see ourselves maybe as we go throughout our day as a crumpled up piece of paper or something that's just not right or something that needs a redo. We are so much more critical of ourselves than the way that God sees us is so incredible, and it'll be hard for us to ever comprehend. If we even read Psalm 139, we know that his ways and his thoughts for us are so hard for us to comprehend. And so I would encourage you to read Psalm 139 today and find the version that speaks to your spirit. But Ephesians 2:10, we have become his poetry. And I went through, and this is your official assignment today, I went through and I looked at a ton of different translations to see all the different ways that those translations say what the Passion Translation says poetry. And so to check out other translations, one place you can go, the place I went was BibleGateway.com, but you can pretty much go anywhere, type the verse in, click on it, and then just keep changing the translation and finding the verse that lights your heart on fire and helps you to even better understand what the Lord is wanting to speak to your spirit. So it also says we are his handiwork, his workmanship, God's accomplishment. That's a great one, right? We are God's accomplishment, his making, his work of art, his creation, his masterpiece, masterpiece. Think of the value of a masterpiece. It's not just a piece of art. It's not just something that just anybody made, but it is a masterpiece, and not just any masterpiece. We are God's masterpiece, his work, his creative work. We are what he made us. We are the product of his hands, just a couple different versions. And so that verse goes on to say, we have become his poetry, a recreated people. So when we feel like a throwaway or someone that needs a redo or not worthy to be called a masterpiece, it's because the enemy is trying to cause us to remember our former self, to cause us to believe lies, to cause us to not live under the blood-bought life that we get to live because of Jesus, and to cause us to actually really try and wrestle with verse 9, which is talking about God's gracious gift. It says in verse 9, so no one will ever be able to boast, for salvation is never a reward for good works or human striving. So he tries to measure us on our doing, on our striving, on our good works. He tries to get us, the enemy does, in this place of comparison or lack or who we're not, instead of wrapped, like we saw in the beginning of Ephesians, wrapped in Jesus, which is how God sees us, covered in his son's blood. So we don't waste a drop of that, and we live from that place of being his poetry, his masterpiece. Isn't that beautiful? His poetry, his masterpiece. That will fulfill, a recreated people that will fulfill the destiny he has given to each of us. For we are joined to Jesus, the Anointed One. So we don't fulfill that destiny apart from him or on our own, but because we are joined to Jesus, and when we stay in God's will, as his poetry, as his recreated people, we will fulfill the destiny he has given each of us, for we are joined to Jesus, the Anointed One, even before we were born. Even before you were born, ladies. Even before we were born. Even before Say, I was born. Even before, say your name. Even before Christy was born. God planned in advance our destiny and the good works that we would do to fulfill it. So God planned it out. God in advance of us doing a thing. Remember, this goes back to us being. We're human beings. We're not human doings. We get to just be and live from the place that Jesus accomplished for us and God prepared in advance for us to walk in. We can go back and start from the very beginning of Ephesians to lay that foundation again, to stand firm in that belief, to have that faith anchor us so that we're not distracted by the enemy and we can walk in our true identity and our true calling as recreated people, as poetries of God, as his masterpiece. Because even before we were born, God planned in advance our destiny. Go back to Psalm 139, read that. He planned every single day. He knew you. He knew you before the foundation of the world, before he even created the earth. He knew you and planned in advance your destiny and the good works we would do to fulfill it. And so I want to talk to you. I want to read a couple other versions, and I want to make sure we're really, really clear, because I do not want to give the enemy room to grab hold of the doing part of that, of the good works part of that, of you feeling like, oh my gosh, what is it I'm supposed to do? And get all tripped up in that. But let me read you a couple of versions that as I went through really spoke to me. So here's in Common English. Instead, we are God's accomplishment, created in Christ Jesus. That's the recreated part. So we were recreated and made whole and redeemed in Christ Jesus to do good things. God planned for these good things to be the way that we live our lives. So God planned for these good things to be the way that we live our lives. Another translation, the Complete Jewish Bible. For we are God's making, created in union. So it's that union with the Messiah Yeshua for a life of good actions already prepared by God for us to do. So check that one out. For we are God's making, created in union. Again, we've talked about this union already. Created in union with the Messiah Yeshua for a life. Remember John 10:10, he's come to give us life and give it abundantly. So for our life here on earth of good actions, already prepared by God. So God's already accomplished them. They're already finished. They've already been done. The Bible I read from every day, the Holman version says that we should walk in them, right? They're done. They're accomplished. All we need to do is walk in them. And the word is should. We have a choice. We have free will. So God's already prepared them. He's already laid them out so that we should walk in them. Or like the Complete Jewish Bible says, for a life of good actions already prepared by God, already prepared, already finished for us to do. And then one more, the voice. For we are the product of his hand. We know God doesn't make mistakes. He does all things beautiful and excellent and beyond and above all we could imagine or think. And we are one of those things. You. Again, say your name. Christy's one of those things. A product of his hand. Heaven's poetry etched on lives. Created in the anointed Jesus to accomplish the good works God arranged long ago. To accomplish the good works God arranged long ago. Ladies, I hope that draws you into the great adventure he has for you when you surrender your life to him, when you surrender your list to him, when you surrender your plans to him, when you surrender your expectations to him, when we surrender things to him and we lay them at his feet. It opens our hands to receive all that he has for us. It's above and beyond all that we could ask or think. Above and beyond. He always does above and beyond what we could ask or think. And so live your day today as the product of his hand. Heaven's poetry is etched on you. It's your life. And you've been created and recreated in the Anointed One, in Jesus. And God has things for you to walk out today that will fill you with such joy as you let him use your life for his glory and his name.